This is the Mahayana Sutra called the Noble Perfection of Wisdom, the Vajra Cutter, by Ken McLeod. I bow to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This is what I once heard said. The most honored was residing near Shavasti in Jeta's Grove at the provider for the defenseless park, along with a large gathering of 1,250 monks and a great many bodhisattva mahasattvas. That morning the most honored put on his robes, picked up his alms bowl, and went to the city of Shavasti to seek alms. When he returned from his alms round in Shavasti, he made offerings with the alms food, ate what remained, put away his robes and bowl, and washed his feet. He sat down on the seat prepared for him, crossed his legs, straightened his body, and rested in clear presence. Then many monks gathered around him. They bowed, touched their heads to his feet, walked around him 3 times, and sat down together. On this occasion, Venerable Subhuti was among those who had gathered. Subhuti rose from his seat and bared his right shoulder. He knelt with his right knee on the ground, joined his palms together, and bowed to the most honored. Then with these words he presented his question. It is truly inspiring, most honored, truly inspiring, most joyous, the extent to which Bodhisattva Mahasattvas are guided with supreme guidance by a full and complete Buddha, thusness, and saint, and the extent to which Bodhisattva Mahasattvas are entrusted with supreme trust by a full and complete Buddha, thusness, and saint. Most honored, how should those who have entered the way of the Bodhisattva live? How should they practice? And how should they hold their minds? The most honored responded to Venerable Subhuti with these words. Well said, Subhuti. That is how it is, Subhuti. That is how it is. Thusness guides Bodhisattva Mahasattvas with supreme guidance. Thusness entrusts Bodhisattvas Mahasattvas with supreme trust. Therefore, Subhuti, listen carefully and take these words to heart as they tell you how those who have entered the way of the Bodhisattva should live, how they should practice, and how they should hold their minds. Please do so, most honored, he replied. Venerable Subhuti then readied himself to listen to the most honored. The most honored said to Subhuti, to your question, one who has entered the way of the Bodhisattva should set their intention by thinking, however many sentient beings are counted as sentient beings, whether they are born from eggs, born from wombs, born from heat and moisture, or born miraculously, whether they have bodies or do not have bodies, whether they conceptualize, do not conceptualize, or neither conceptualize nor do not conceptualize. However many sentient beings in the realm of sentient beings are counted as sentient beings, I shall bring all of them all the way to nirvana, to the vastness of the nirvana in which no aggregate remains. Further, although sentient beings beyond measure come all the way to nirvana, no sentient being comes all the way to nirvana. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, if a bodhisattva engages the concept of sentient being, they should not be called a bodhisattva. Why do I say that? Subhuti, anyone who engages the concept of sentient being, the concept of living being, or the concept of individual being should not be called a bodhisattva. Further, Subhuti, bodhisattvas give what they give without dwelling on substance. They give what they give without dwelling on anything. They give what they give without dwelling on form. They give what they give without dwelling on sound, smell, taste, touch, or thought. Subhuti, bodhisattvas give what they give without dwelling on even the thought of a defining characteristic. Why do I say that? Subhuti, when bodhisattvas give what they give without dwelling on anything, the amount of goodness, Subhuti, is not easy to measure. Subhuti, what do you think? Is the space to the east easy to measure? Indeed, no, most honored. In the same way is the space to the south, to the west, to the north, above, below, to the intermediate directions, indeed to any of the 10 directions easy to measure? Indeed, no, most honored. Subhuti, in the same way, when bodhisattvas give what they give without dwelling on anything, the amount of goodness is not easy to measure. Subhuti, what do you think? Do you look at thusness as showing the physical signs of excellence? Indeed, no, most honored. I do not look at thusness as showing the physical signs of excellence. Why do I say that? Because thusness teaches that which shows the physical signs of excellence does not have the physical signs of excellence. Subhuti, that which shows the physical signs of excellence is misleading. That which does not show the physical signs of excellence is not misleading. Therefore, look at thusness as having and not having the physical signs. Most honored, in the future, in the 500 final years when the holy teachings have been completely disintegrated, will there be any sentient beings who develop a correct understanding of the explanation of sutras such as this? Subhuti, do not ask. In the future, in the final 500 years when the holy teachings have completely disintegrated, will there be any sentient beings who develop a correct understanding of the explanation of sutras such as this? In the future, in the final 500 years when the holy teachings have completely disintegrated, bodhisattva mahasattvas will arise, who are ethical, capable, and intelligent. Moreover, Subhuti, these bodhisattva mahasattvas will not be those who have attended one Buddha. They will not be those who have generated virtue under one Buddha. Subhuti, bodhisattva mahasattvas will arise who have attended many hundreds, if not thousands, of Buddhas, and have generated virtue under many hundreds, if not thousands, of Buddhas. Anyone who, if only for a moment, develops faith in the explanation of sutras such as this one, thusness knows them, Subhuti, thusness sees them, Subhuti, Subhuti, all those sentient beings generate and amass incalculable amounts of goodness. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, these bodhisattva mahasattvas do not engage a sense of self, nor the concept of a sentient being, nor the concept of living being, nor the concept of individual being. Subhuti, these bodhisattva mahasattvas do not engage the concept of experience or the concept of absence of experience. They do not engage concepts or even the absence of concepts. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, if these bodhisattva mahasattvas engage the concept of experience, that would lead them to hold a sense of self, a sentient being, a living being, or an individual being. Moreover, if they engage the concept of the absence of experience, that would also lead them to hold a sense of self, a sentient being, a living being, or an individual being. Why do I say that? Again, Subhuti, because bodhisattvas should not incorrectly engage any experience, nor any absence of experience. With that in mind, if thusness teaches that all those who know how the teachings are expressed as being like a raft should let go of experience, there is no need to mention the absence of experience. What do you think, Subhuti? With respect to thusness, is there any such experience as coming to full and complete Buddhahood, to the supreme and utter completeness of awakening. Has thusness revealed any such experience? Most honored, as I understand what the most honored has said, with respect to thusness, there is no such experience as coming to full and complete Buddhahood, to the supreme and utter completeness of awakening. Thusness has not revealed any such experience. Why do I say that? Thusness does not engage or describe the utter and complete awakening or revealing of any such experience, because such an experience is neither present nor absent. What is the point here? The point is that the unconditioned is what differentiates worthy persons. Subhuti, what do you think? Suppose a son or daughter of a good family makes a gift of this great 1,000-world system of 1 billion worlds filled to overflowing with the 7 jewels. From this basis, does the son or daughter of good family generate a great quantity of goodness? Most honored, great indeed, most joyous, great indeed. From this basis, the son or daughter of a good family does generate a great quantity of goodness. What is the point here? The point is, most honored, that very quantity of goodness is without quantity. Therefore, thusness teaches it is a quantity of goodness. Subhuti, compared to any son or daughter of good family who makes a gift of this great 1,000 world system of 1 billion worlds filled to overflowing with the 7 jewels, anyone who engages even one 4-line verse from how these teachings are expressed, teaches it correctly, and explains it to others. From that basis, that person generates a much greater quantity of goodness, incalculably, immeasurably greater. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, from this comes the supreme and complete awakening that is full and complete Buddhahood, thusness, and sainthood. All the most honored, the Buddhas, are born from this. Why do I say that? Subhuti, because thusness teaches that the so-called teachings of full awakening are without teachings of full awakening. Therefore, they are called teachings of full awakening. Subhuti, what do you think? Do stream enterers think I have attained the result of stream enterer? No, indeed, most honored. What is the point here? The point, most honored, is that they have not entered anything. Therefore, they are called stream enterers. They do not enter form, nor sound, nor smell, nor taste, nor touch, nor thought. Therefore, they are called stream enterers. Most honored, if a stream enterer were to think, I have attained the result of stream enterer, right there he or she engages a sense of self, engages being a sentient being, engages being a living being, and engages being an individual being. What do you think, Subhuti? Do once returners think, I have attained the result once returner? No, indeed, most honored. What is the point here? The point is that there is no such experience called as being a once returner. Therefore, they are called once returners. What do you think, Subhuti? Do non-returners think, I have attained the result non-returner? No, indeed, most honored. What is the point here? The point is that there is no such experience as being a non-returner. Therefore, they are called non-returners. What do you think, Subhuti? Do saints think I have attained the result of sainthood? No, indeed, most honored. What is the point here? The point is that there is no such experience as sainthood. Most honored, if a saint thinks, I have attained sainthood, right there they engage a sense of self. They engage a sentient being, engage a living being, and engage being an individual being. Most honored, full and complete Buddha, thusness and saint, has declared that I am the foremost of those who dwell free of emotional reactions, and, most honored, that I am indeed a saint, free from the reactivity of attraction. Most honored, I do not think I am a saint. most honored, if I were to think I am a saint, thusness would not declare of me, Subhuti, son of good family. You are the foremost of those who dwell free of emotional reactions, because you do not dwell on anything, you dwell free of emotional reactions. Subhuti, what do you think? Did thusness receive any transmission from Dipankara, full and complete Buddha, thusness and saint? No, indeed, most honored. Thusness did not receive any transmission from Dipankara, full and complete Buddha, thusness and saint. Subhuti, if some bodhisattva says, I will create beautifully laid fields of awareness, what he says would not be true. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, thusness teaches that what are called beautifully laid out fields of awareness are not beautifully laid out. Thus they are called beautifully laid out fields of awareness. Subhuti, for this reason, Bodhisattva Mahasattvas should give rise to intentions that are not set like this, intentions that are not set in any way, intentions that are not set in form, intentions that are not set in sound or smell or taste or touch or even thought. Subhuti, say, for example, a person were to have a body like this, say, like Mount Meru, the king of mountains. Subhuti, what do you think? Would that be a large body? Indeed, most honored, that would be a large body. Indeed, most joyous, that would be a large body. What is the point here? The point is that thusness teaches that it has no substance, hence it is called a body. It is called a body because, as thusness teaches, it has no substance. Subhuti, what do you think? If every grain of sand in the Ganges Valley was turned into a Ganges Valley, would the amount of sand in those valleys be substantial? The number of Ganges valleys would be substantial indeed, most honored, to say nothing of the grains of sand in them. Subhuti, listen carefully and take this in. If every one of those grains of sand were a world system, and a man or woman were to fill all of them with the 7 jewels and offer that as a gift to every full and complete Buddha, thusness and saint, Subhuti, what do you think? From that basis, would that man or woman generate a lot of goodness? A lot indeed, most honored, a lot indeed, most joyous. From that basis, that man or woman would generate a lot of goodness. Subhuti, compared to someone who offers a gift of that many world systems filled with the 7 jewels to every full and complete Buddha, thusness and saint, a person who, having engaged about just one 4-line verse from how these teachings are expressed, explains it and also teaches it correctly to others, generates from that basis far more goodness, incalculably, immeasurably more. Further, Subhuti, wherever one person recites or teaches even only a 4-line verse from how these teachings are expressed, gods, humans, and titans together make that place a shrine for the world. If that is the case, what is said to be said about someone who takes up how these teachings are expressed, cherishes it, studies it, takes it to heart, attends to it appropriately, and comes to inspire awe and wonder in others? A Buddha will even dwell in that place, and other masters will make their homes there as well. Then Subhuti asked the most honored, what is the name of how these teachings are expressed? How does one engage it? Subhuti, how these teachings are expressed is called the perfection of wisdom. Engage it accordingly. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, what thusness teaches as the perfection of wisdom is itself without perfection. Therefore, it is called the perfection of wisdom. Subhuti, what do you think? Has thusness given any such teaching? Most honored, thusness has not given any such teaching. What do you think, Subhuti? Are there many dust particles present in a great 1,000-world system of 1 billion worlds? Yes, most honored, Many dust particles indeed, most joyous. Many dust particles indeed. What is the point here? The point is, most honored, that thusness teaches that any such dust particle is without a particle. Therefore, it is called a dust particle. And any such world system thusness teaches that it is without a system. Therefore, it is called a world system. What do you think, Subhuti? Do you look at a full and complete Buddha, thusness, and saint by means of the 32 signs of a great person? No, indeed, most honored. What is the point here? The point is that what thusness teaches as the 32 signs of a great person, thusness teaches as being without sign. Therefore, they are called the 32 signs of thusness. Subhuti, if a man or woman were to give away their own body as many times as there are grains of sand in the Ganges Valley, and if someone were to take just one 4-line verse from how these teachings are expressed and teach it to others, on that basis the latter would generate incalculably, immeasurably more goodness. At this point, the depth of these teachings moved Subhuti to weep. After he had wiped away his tears, Subhuti said to the most honored, how these teachings are expressed in the way that thusness teaches is awe-inspiring, most honored. It is awe-inspiring, most joyous, most honored. Since timeless awareness took birth in me, I have never heard these teachings expressed in this way. Most honored, with this explanation of the sutra, those sentient beings who give rise to a correct understanding will be truly remarkable. What is the point here? The point, most honored, is that that which is a correct understanding is without understanding. Therefore, thusness calls it a correct understanding. Most honored. As for reflection and trust in the explanation of how these teachings are expressed, for me to trust it is not particularly remarkable. However, most honored, in the end of times, at the end of this age, in the last 500 years, those who take up how these teachings are expressed, cherish it, read it, and take it to heart will be truly remarkable. Further, most honored, they will not engage the concept of self, the concept of sentient being, the concept of living being, or the concept of individual being. What is the point here? The point here, most honored, is that the concept of self, the concept of sentient being, the concept of living being, the concept of individual being, and all such concepts are without concept. What is the point here? The point is that the most honoreds, the Buddhas, are free of concepts. That is correct, Subhuti, that is correct. Those sentient beings who are not frightened or daunted or disheartened by the sutra are truly remarkable. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, thusness teaches this perfection. What thusness teaches as the greatest of the perfections, countless Buddhas, the most honoreds, have taught too. Therefore, it is called the greatest of the perfections. Again, Subhuti, whatever is the perfection of patience, of thusness, it is without perfection. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, when King Kalinka cut off my limbs and my other extremities, no concept of any kind arose in me, no concept of self, no concept of sentient being, no concept of living being, and no concept of individual being arose, nor did I become senseless. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, if on that occasion the concept of a person arose in me, the concept of hostility would have also arisen at the same time. If the concept of sentient being, the concept of living being, or the concept of individual being had arisen, the concept of hostility would have arisen at the same time. Subhuti, through my higher perception, I know that in the past, for a series of 500 lives, I was a seer named Patient Speaker, and the concept of self did not arise in me, nor the concept of a sentient being, living being, or individual being. In the same way, Subhuti, Bodhisattva Mahasattvas cease to engage concepts and set their intention on ultimate, full, and complete awakening. They also set their intention without dwelling on form. They set their intention without dwelling on sound, smell, taste, touch, or thought. They set their intention without dwelling on the absence of thought. They set their intention without dwelling on anything. Why do I say that? Because any dwelling is without dwelling. In this way, thusness teaches, bodhisattvas give what they give without dwelling. Further, Subhuti, for the sake of all beings, a bodhisattva practices giving completely in this way. Any concept of a sentient being is itself without concept. All sentient beings of whom thusness teaches are themselves without being. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, thusness teaches what is correct, what is true, and how it is. Because thusness teaches how it is, the teaching is without error. Further, Subhuti, in the experience which thusness has utterly and completely awakened and taught, there is nothing true and there is nothing false. Subhuti, it is like this. Regard a bodhisattva who has fallen into substantiality and practices giving completely, as, for example, like a man with eyes who does not see anything in the dark. Subhuti, it is like this. Regard a bodhisattva who has not fallen into substantiality and practices giving completely, as, for example, like a man with eyes who, when the sun rises in the morning, sees the whole range of shapes and forms. Subhuti, thusness knows, and thusness sees any son or daughter of good family who takes up how these teachings are expressed, cherishes it, reads it, takes it to heart, and teaches it correctly and widely to others. All these sentient beings generate immeasurable quantities of goodness. Further, Subhuti, if one morning a man or woman were to give away their body as many times as there are grains of sand in the Ganges Valley, and in the afternoon and in the evening they were to give away their body as many times as there are grains of sand in the Ganges Valley, and they were to give away their body counting in this manner for 100,000,000,000,000,000 eons. And if someone were to hear how these teachings are expressed and not reject it, on that basis, the latter would generate far more goodness, incalculably, immeasurably more, to say nothing of someone who writes it out, takes it up, cherishes it, reads it, takes it to heart, and teaches it widely to others, correctly and completely. Subhuti, how these teachings are expressed is incomparable and inconceivable, and its karmic ripening is also inconceivable. Thusness teaches that how these teachings are expressed is for those who are properly established in the supreme way, and for those who are properly established at the highest level of the way. Thusness knows and thusness sees anyone who takes up how these teachings are expressed, cherishes it, reads it, and takes it to heart, and teaches it correctly and widely to others. Thus, sentient beings come to have immeasurable quantities of goodness, having quantities of goodness that are inconceivable, incomparable, inestimable, and immeasurable. These sentient beings will carry part of my awakening on their shoulders. Why do I say that? Subhuti, all those drawn to lesser aims are unable to listen to how these teachings are expressed, nor can it be heard, cherished, read, or taken to heart by those who hold to self, those who hold to sentient being, those who hold to living being, and those who hold to individual being because it is not possible. Further, Subhuti, any place where the sutra is taught becomes a place worthy of offerings from the whole world with its gods, humans, and titans. It becomes a place worthy of bows and worthy of circumambulations, like a stupa. Subhuti, those sons or daughters of a good family who take up sutras such as this one, cherish it, read them, and take them to heart will be troubled. They will be tormented. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, the unwholesome actions that these sentient beings did in earlier lives, the actions that would lead them to be born in the lower realms, will trouble them in this very life. They will be cleansed of the unwholesome actions of former lives, and they will attain the awakening of Buddha. Subhuti, through my higher perception, uncountable eons ago, long before Dipankara, full and complete Buddha, thusness and saint, I served 8400,000 million billion Buddhas and served them faithfully. Subhuti, of the quantity of goodness from my serving these Buddhas and serving them faithfully, and the quantity of someone who, in the last 500 years of the end of times, takes up the sutra, cherishes it, reads it, and takes it to heart, the former does not even remotely approach 100th, 1,000th, or even 100,000th of the latter. The latter does not permit any measure based on counting, division, tally, analogy, comparison, or genesis. Subhuti, if I were to describe what great quantity of goodness sons or daughters of noble families would earn at that time, the sheer quantity of goodness of those sons or daughters of noble families, it would leave sentient beings confused and trembling. Subhuti, know that because how these teachings are expressed is inconceivable. Its karmic ripening is also inconceivable. Most honored, how does one who has correctly entered the way of the Bodhisattva live? How does one practice? How does one take hold of mind? Subhuti, for this, one who has correctly entered the way of the Bodhisattva sets this clear intention by thinking, I shall bring all sentient beings all the way to nirvana, to the vastness of the nirvana in which no aggregate remains. Further, although sentient beings beyond measure come all the way to nirvana, no sentient being comes all the way to nirvana. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, if a bodhisattva engages the concept of sentient being, he or she should not be called a bodhisattva. Why do I say that? Subhuti, anyone who engages the concept of sentient being, the concept of living being, or the concept of individual being should not be called a bodhisattva. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, there is no experience called one who has correctly entered the way of the bodhisattva. Subhuti, what do you think? Did thusness have any such experience as supreme, pure, and complete awakening into full Buddhahood comparable to thusness Dipankara? Most honored, thusness did not have any such experience as supreme, pure, and complete awakening into full Buddhahood comparable to thusness Dipankara. That is right, Subhuti, that is right. Thusness did not have any such experience as supreme, pure, and complete awakening into full Buddhahood comparable to thusness Dipankara. Subhuti, if thusness had had some such experience of actual complete Buddhahood, thusness Dipankara would not have predicted, sometime in the future, young man, you will be called Shakyamuni, full and complete Buddha, thusness and saint. Subhuti, therefore, Because thusness did not have any such experience as supreme, full, and complete awakening into utter, complete Buddhahood, thusness Deepankara predicted, young man, sometime in the future, you will be called Shakyamuni, full and complete Buddha, thusness, and saint. Why do I say that? Subhuti, because the word thusness is a synonym for truly thus. Subhuti, if someone were to say full and complete Buddha, thusness and saint came to supreme, full and complete awakening into utterly complete Buddhahood, that would be misleading. Why do I say that? Because Subhuti, thusness has no such experience as supreme, full and complete awakening into utterly complete Buddhahood. Subhuti, for thusness, any experience in which one is utterly and completely awake is neither true nor false. Therefore, thusness teaches that all experience is called Buddha experience. Subhuti, what is called all experience, all of it is without experience. Thus, all experience is called Buddha experience. Subhuti, here is how it is. As an example, it is like a man with a body, a really huge body, most honored. When thusness teaches about a man with a body, with a really huge body, thusness teaches that the body is bodiless. Therefore, it is said that the man has a body, a really large body. Subhuti, that is right. Any bodhisattva who says, I bring all sentient beings all the way across to nirvana, should not be called a bodhisattva. Why do I say that? Subhuti, is there any such experience as being a bodhisattva? No, indeed, most honored. Therefore, Subhuti, thusness teaches that in all experience there is no sentient beings, no living beings, and no individual beings. Subhuti, if a bodhisattva says, I shall create beautifully laid out fields of awareness, the same should be said of him or her. Why do I say that? Because Subhuti, thusness teaches that with regard to beautifully laid out fields of awareness, what are called beautifully laid out fields of awareness are not beautifully laid out. That is why they are called beautifully laid out fields of awareness. Subhuti, of any bodhisattva who understands all experience is without self, full and complete Buddha, thusness and saint says, that is a bodhisattva. Subhuti, what do you think? Does thusness have physical sight? Most honored, yes, yes, indeed. Thusness has physical sight. Subhuti, what do you think? Does thusness have divine sight? Most honored, yes, yes, indeed. Thusness has divine sight. Subhuti, what do you think? Does thusness have wisdom sight? Most honored, yes, yes, indeed. Thusness has wisdom sight. Subhuti, what do you think? Does thusness have spiritual sight? Most honored, yes, yes, indeed. Thusness has spiritual sight. Subhuti, what do you think? Does thusness have awake sight? Most honored, yes, yes, indeed. Thusness has awake sight. Subhuti, what do you think? If all the grains of sand in the Ganges Valley were to become the Ganges Valleys, and all the grains of sand in them were to become world systems, would there be many world systems? Yes, yes, indeed, most honored. There would be many world systems indeed. Subhuti, I am fully aware of the mind streams of as many sentient beings as there are in those world systems. Why do I say that? Because Subhuti, thusness teaches that what is called a mind stream is without stream. Therefore, it is called a mind stream. Why do I say that? Because Subhuti, the past mind is not found, the future mind is not found, and the present mind is not found. Subhuti, what do you think? Suppose a son or daughter of a noble family filled to overflowing this great 1,000-world system of of 1 billion worlds with the 7 jewels and gave it away. On this basis, would such a person generate much goodness? Much indeed, most honored, much indeed, most joyous. That is right, Subhuti, that is right. On this basis, a son or daughter of good family would generate a great quantity of goodness. Subhuti, if there were such a quantity of goodness, thusness would not call it a quantity of goodness. Subhuti, what do you think? Do you see thusness as the fully formed physical body? No, indeed, most honored. I do not see thusness as the fully formed physical body. Why do I say that? Because, most honored, thusness has taught that that which is called a fully formed physical body or a completely formed physical body is not fully formed. Therefore, it is called a fully formed physical body. What do you think, Subhuti? Do you see thusness as the physical science of excellence? No, indeed, most honored. I do not see thusness as the physical science of excellence. Why do I say that? Because thusness has taught that what is said to show the physical science of excellence lacks the physical science of excellence. Therefore, they are called the physical science of excellence. Subhuti, what do you think? Does thusness think I give a teaching? Subhuti, do not look at it that way. A teaching that thusness has given is not anything. Suppose, Subhuti, someone says thusness gives the teaching. Subhuti, that person misrepresents me because he or she either does not understand or misunderstands. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, what is called giving a teaching is a concept. The so-called giving a teaching is not anything. Most honored, in future times will there be sentient beings who hear such presentations of the teaching and have deep faith in them? Subhuti, they are not sentient beings, nor are they sentient beings. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, thusness teaches that what are called sentient beings are without sentient being. Therefore, they are called sentient beings. Subhuti, what do you think? Is there any such experience as the supreme, utter, and complete awakening of thusness and a full and complete Buddhahood? Most honored, there is no such experience as the supreme, utter, and complete awakening of thusness and a full and complete Buddhahood. Subhuti, that is right, that is right. Nothing is held, not even the slightest experience. Therefore, it is called supreme, full, and complete awakening. Further, Subhuti, this experience is the same as any other. It is not different in any way. That is why it is called supreme, full, and complete awakening. Supreme, full, and complete awakening is the same as any other, and having no sense of self, no sentient being, no living being, and no individual being. Virtuous experiences bring about utter, complete awakening. Subhuti, of these so-called virtuous experiences, thusness teaches that they are without experience at all. Therefore, they are called virtuous experiences. Further, Subhuti, suppose a son or daughter of a noble family actually gathered and gave away mountains of the 7 kinds of precious jewels, as many as there are Mount Merus in a great 1,000-world system of 1 billion worlds, and someone memorized just a 4-line verse of this perfection of wisdom and taught it to others. Subhuti, the quantity of goodness of the former would not come to 100th, 1,000th, or 100,000th of the latter. The latter does not permit any measure based on counting, division, tally, analogy, comparison, or genesis. Subhuti, what do you think? Does thusness think I have freed sentient beings? Subhuti, do not look at it that way. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, no sentient being is freed by thusness. Subhuti, if thusness freed a sentient being, Right there, thusness would have engaged a sense of self, engaged a sentient being, engaged a living being, and engaged an individual being. Subhuti, thusness has taught that what is called engaging a sense of self has no engaging. However, foolish persons engage Subhuti. Thusness has taught that these so-called foolish persons are without personhood. Therefore, they are called foolish persons. Subhuti, what do you think? Do you see thusness by means of the physical science of excellence? No, indeed, most honored. I do not see thusness by means of the physical science of excellence. That is right, Subhuti. You do not see thusness by means of the physical science of excellence. Subhuti, if thusness were seen by means of the physical science of excellence, the wheel-wielding monarch would be thusness. Therefore, do not see thusness by means of the physical science of excellence. If I understand what the Most Honored has taught, I do not see thusness by the means of the physical science of excellence. Then the Most Honored composed these verses for the occasion. Whoever sees me in form, whoever knows me through sound, their practice is incorrect. Such people do not see me. The Buddha is seen through true experience. The guide is true presence, because true experience is not an object of knowing. It cannot be known by ordinary consciousness. Subhuti, what do you think? If you hold that the physical signs of excellence bring about a full and complete Buddha, thusness, and saint. Subhuti, do not look at it this way. Subhuti, a full and complete Buddha, thusness, and saint does not come to full Buddhahood, the supreme and utter completeness of awakening by means of the physical science of excellence. Subhuti, if you hold that those who correctly enter the Bodhisattva path eradicate or put an end to experience, do not look at it this way, Subhuti. All those who enter the Bodhisattva path correctly do not eradicate or put an end to experience. Further, Subhuti, compared to a son or daughter of a good family who fills as many world systems as there are grains of sand in the Ganges Valley with the 7 precious jewels and gives them all away. A bodhisattva who is able to accept that experience has no beginning and is beyond measure gives rise on that basis to a much greater quantity of goodness. Yet, Subhuti, the bodhisattva does not hold that quantity of goodness. Indeed, should a bodhisattva not hold that quantity of goodness, most honored? Subhuti, although they hold it, they do not hold it incorrectly. Therefore, it is said they hold it. Subhuti, if someone says thusness comes and goes, stands and sits, and lies down, that person does not understand the meaning of what I explained. Why do I say that? Because, Subhuti, thusness does not go anywhere and does not come from anywhere, and is therefore called a full and complete Buddha, thusness and saint. Further, Subhuti, suppose a son or daughter of good family were to take as many dust particles as in a great 1,000-world system of a billion worlds, and grind them into a powder as fine as the finest particles, for example. Subhuti, what do you think? Would the number of finest particles in that pile be a large number? Most honored, it would, indeed. The number of finest particles in that pile would be a large number indeed. What is the point here? The point, most honored, is if there were such a pile, the most honored would not name it a pile of the finest particles. What is the point here? The point is, thusness teaches that whatever the most honored says is a pile of the finest particles is not a pile. Therefore, it is called a pile of the finest particles. Whatever thusness teaches is a great 1,000-world system of a billion worlds, Thusness teaches that it is not a system. Therefore, it is called a great thousand-world system of a billion worlds. What is the point here? The point, most honored, is if there were a system, it would be held to be a solid entity. What thusness teaches as holding to be a solid entity, thusness teaches that that is without holding. Therefore, it is called holding to be a solid entity. Subhuti, holding as a solid entity, is a term. The experience itself is ineffable. Foolish, ordinary people hold. Subhuti, suppose someone said, thusness teaches holding self. Thusness teaches holding sentient being, holding living being, and holding individual being. Subhuti, is that the correct view? Most honored, it is not. Most joyous, indeed, it is not. What is the point here? The point, most honored, is that what thusness teaches as holding self, thusness teaches as being without holding there. Therefore, it is called holding self. Subhuti, it is in this way that those who have correctly entered the Bodhisattva path should know and regard all experience, having developed faith, and above all, they have the faith not to dwell even in the conceptual understanding of experience. Why do I say that? Thusness teaches that what is called the conceptual understanding of experience is without conceptual understanding. That is why it is called conceptual understanding. Subhuti, suppose a bodhisattva mahasattva filled innumerable, uncountable worlds with the 7 precious jewels and gave them away, and suppose that a son or daughter of good family took up only a 4-line verse from this, the perfection of wisdom, cherished it, read it, took it to heart, or taught it extensively to others. On that basis, he or she would generate an incalculably, immeasurably greater amount of goodness. How does one teach correctly? In a way that is without teaching correctly. Therefore, it is called teaching correctly. A shooting star, hazy vision, or a butter lamp, an enchantment, a dewdrop, or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, or a cloud, see the conditioned like this. When the most honored had spoken, the elder Subhuti, the monks, the bodhisattvas, the 4 assemblies of monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen, and the whole world with its gods, humans, titans, and celestial choristers rejoiced and sincerely praised the most honored's teachings. This completes the noble perfection of wisdom known as the Vajra cutter. Ken McLeod translated the sutra in Windsor, California in 2025. May it light the sun of faith and inspire and inspiration in all who read it.